On a November afternoon, a 14-year-old stands on a Seattle street corner and sticks out her thumb. Kathy Devine is unhappy with life and determined to run away. As two friends watch, Kathy accepts a ride from a man in a pickup truck.
I remember it as about 3 hours after she left, one of the girls that was with her got a case of conscience and called my mom, said, "I just thought you might need to know."
To know that she had accepted a ride with a complete stranger and just all of a sudden disappeared from our sight and then never take anything with her. She had most of her personal belongings were at home. We knew she was in trouble.
Bill Devine talks to police and reaches out to family and friends. 2 days later, there is still no word. A father begins to fear the worst.
Not a phone call, nothing. And at that point, by Sunday night, I was convinced that she would never call us because she would have called by then. I was terrified about it. I really was.
On December 6th, Barbara Sailing works her way through the trees, picking up litter left behind by campers. In a small depression, Barbara sees what she thinks is a large mannequin and walks over to investigate.
I was going to pick it up as trash. And when I get closer, I noticed her buttocks, and it was definitely not a mannequin.
Barbara reports the find to police. Sheriff's detectives from Thurston County converge on the scene.
She was facing face down in the salal. Her face was pretty badly, I'm going to say, eroded away, if you will.
They were missing the one shoe, and she was wearing a jacket. The pockets had been cut. Her panties had been cut from the middle of the back right down to the crotch. Her breasts had been cut.
Working quickly, detectives process the scene. A light but steady rain falls, making it difficult to preserve valuable evidence. Investigators take note of a rope, pieces of a chain-link bracelet, a tire track and shoe print. Jane Doe's body is transported to the medical examiner's office, where investigators try to identify their victim and rebuild the last moments of her life. Due to decomposition, the medical examiner is unable to determine if the victim was strangled to death or had her throat cut. As detectives on the scene suspected, there is considerable evidence of sexual assault, including semen collected from the body. Of paramount importance, putting a name to the dead girl on the table.
We couldn't put her in the county as a resident, and we're wondering, how she got here. Hitchhiking was, of course, the first thing that came to our mind.
If Jane Doe is a hitchhiker, the first place detectives want to look is the closest major city. That would be Seattle. A sketch of the girl, as well as clothing and jewelry, are shown on the local news. Sherry Devine is at home watching.
And I knew it immediately. She had a patch that was a dragon, very unique because she'd taken it off another piece of clothing. And I looked at my mom and I said, "Mom, that's Kathy. You need to call the police."
Thurston County's Jane Doe is identified as Kathy Devine. A team of detectives moves into Seattle and begins working the streets near where Kathy was last seen alive. Her friends provide, at best, a sketchy description of the pickup Kathy climbed into. And most importantly, no one can provide a description of who was driving the truck. In time, the investigation falters, and Kathy Devine's murder goes into the cold files. Detectives scour Seattle, looking for someone who might have caught a glimpse at the truck Devine climbed into. When that fails, they return to Thurston County. Detective Paul Barclift begins to read through police reports filed around the time of Devine's death. Almost immediately, one report catches his eye.
First thing I come across was Cosden's truck burning in the middle of the night.
Cosden is William Cosden Jr., a local thug with a violent past. The mysterious early morning fire, coupled with Cosden's bad boy reputation, and the fact that Kathy Devine was last seen getting into a pickup, are enough to pique the interests of detectives. Then a couple of tips filter in. and William Cosden moves from a topic of interest into the realm of suspect.
We had 2 tips mailed in anonymously suggesting William Cosden Jr. is who we should look at. It was an anonymous tip, and you'd really never know what to expect, but when there's 2 of them, certainly somebody ought to take some notice, and we did.
Detectives dig into Cosden's past and find more than just a local bully. In 1967, he was charged in the rape and murder of a woman in Maryland and served time in an asylum for the criminally insane. Cosden left the East Coast and moved to the Pacific Northwest, where he got a job working for his father at a local truck stop. Just off Interstate 5 sits the Restover Truck Stop, a place where truckers stop to gas up and hitchhikers catch their next ride. The truck stop community is one that is tight-knit, especially when the law comes calling.
At that time, nobody was saying anything. All of them's jobs kind of depended on it. But finally, I got one guy that gave me a statement.
The witness claimed he saw William Cosden on the day his truck burned, and that Cosden had blood on his clothing. When the witness asked Cosden about the blood, Cosden claimed he was poaching deer. A few hours later, Cosden's truck went up in flames. If he had killed Kathy Devine, any evidence was gone. With no other witnesses and the truck destroyed, detectives have nowhere to go with their investigation. William Cosden is put on the back burner. In the summer of 2001, Cosden is in jail for raping another woman. Jeremy Sanderson is a forensic scientist for the state of Washington. In August of 2001, he extracts a DNA profile from semen collected in the Kathy Devine homicide. Sanderson develops a full genetic profile, runs it through the state DNA database, and turns up nothing.
After I had done that without a hit, then just as this housekeeping item, well, could you run his blood sample also? We found this. Maybe it'd be valuable, so go ahead, why don't you try it out?
The sample detectives give Sanderson is William Cosden's. The analysis is straightforward. The results unequivocal. What DNA analysts call a 13-locus match, pretty much as good as it gets.
The probability of selecting somebody else at random and they're coincidentally also having a matching profile that was found to be shared between William Cosden and the semen sample was approximately 1 in 71 trillion.
The DNA match proves Cosden had sex with the victim, not that he killed her. Cold case detectives need to sit down with Cosden, get him talking, and hope he makes a mistake. Haller pulls out the DNA test results and informs Cosden of the 1 in 71 trillion match weighing against him.
I says, Bill, if you never had any contact with Catherine before, you never seen her before, you never had sex with her or anything else, how did your sperm get in her vagina? And his only response to that was, I haven't killed anyone. It's got to be a mistake.
Haller knows he has Cosden in a tight spot.
I started doing a bunch more follow-up work, locating and interviewing other witnesses. And there were still a lot of them still alive.
One of the people investigators speak with is David Pershon, a regular at the truck stop Cosden's father owned.
Did you see anything suspicious in the back of that truck?
Seen that sleeping bag was all bloody, and then I seen that brown walking stopper shoe, and it had some kind of dark laces in it.
Pershon's description matches the shoes Kathy Devine was wearing when she disappeared, one of which was never found. It is the final piece to a puzzle of murder, with William Cosden at its very center. On March 8, 2002, he is charged with rape and murder. 4 months later, a jury convicts him and he is sentenced to life in prison.